One got
Okay, we're good. We're not expecting a fire drill, but if the alarm does sound, then we just need to leave the chamber by these doors either side. And the gathering point is in the car park. I would just like to remind people this is a public meeting. It is a chance for everybody to put their viewpoint across. But if I can just remind people to be respectful and let people have their say, no shouting out or interruptions, please. Okay, with the introductions done, I'll move on to the agenda. Our first item is apologies for absence. Councillor Cooper.
Apologies for David Bagshaw. I'm subbing for David Bagshaw.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm subbing for Ross Buffy.
Yeah, unfortunately, Ross is no longer with us. Okay, thank you. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Please, could I have any declarations of interest? No? Okay. Item 3 is the minutes of the last meeting, which was on the 9th of July. I will move these from the chair as a correct record.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Pauline. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Yeah. 3 abstentions. Okay. Thank you. The minutes are carried. Just to remind people, notifications of lobbying. Members have been sent a form with their agenda to record any lobbying. Spare forms are available from Jake, should you not find the original one. Okay, thanks. Okay, moving on to the first item then really, which is item 5.1, 99 Church Street, Stapleford. The application is seeking permission for the demolition of an existing dwelling, which is 99 Church Street, garages and workshops to the rear, and to construct 15 residential units comprising 5 dwellings and 10 apartments, and single-storey communal block, including a site office. Ryan, can you introduce this one for us, please?
Thank you, Chair. As you just explained, demolition of 99 Church Street, access from there, and 15 supported living dwellings, 5 houses, 10 apartments on the site to the rear. It's basically an underutilised garage site that till today I don't actually know was there, in between Northwood Street and Manor Avenue in Stapleford. The principal's fine is a residential area. The layout has a single-storey duplex building in the far bottom corner of the site, with a row of 4 single-storey dwellings, a 2-storey block of flats, and a smaller 2-storey building, all adjacent to the access road that runs through the centre of the site. It's contemporary design, materials to be conditioned. The site is largely hidden from public view, other than glimpses through the existing dwellings and surrounding roads. Specifics with regards to amenity are outlined on the report on pages 29 and 30. But it has been designed to ensure adequate living space, both internal and external, for the future occupiers, yet minimise the impacts of overlooking and overbearing for the new development on nearby properties. We're aware this development will have an impact on the surrounding properties, both during construction and once complete, but this impact is not detrimental and the scheme is acceptable in amenity terms in our opinion. Access and parking. The main access off Manor Road is to be closed permanently, and that's been conditioned. That's been some of the concerns raised from some of the local people. The access will come from the main road and a 7-metre wide carriageway with a footpath. That's acceptable in highway terms. Yes, we are aware it would lead to some more traffic, but it's certainly not significant enough or an issue that can justify refusing the scheme. There's 8 parking spaces and cycle storage, and this is considered adequate as there's low expectation for future occupiers to have cars, considering the future tenure of the site. And the high-rise trees that need to be removed to facilitate access are to be located elsewhere, and the Section 106 covers payment for those trees. Flooding-wise, sequential test has been carried out, submitted and accepted. A small part of the site in the southwestern corner is in flood zone 2, and the layout has been amended accordingly to try and take the bit of development out of that area. The site's in surface water runoff risk, so the drainage strategy has been submitted, and the LFA following that submission have no objections. Biodiversity, 19.94% increase overall, which is above the 10%, so there's no issues there. Section 6, with regards to legal stuff, if permission is granted, it's subject to Section 6, which will include the following: £26,000 for open space, £17,000 for new highways trees, expensive trees those, open space management company to maintain the open space on site, and as it's a 100% affordable scheme, there's no need for affordable housing contribution, and then a 22k and a 15k contribution towards bus stops and community transport schemes respectively. These have all been asked for and all been accepted by the applicants, and therefore will be included in Section 106 should permission be granted. There are no other issues that haven't already been addressed in the report, so subject to 106, recommend approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, there are 2 public speakers, George Machin, who is the agent for the applicant, and Edward Johnson, who is objecting. So if we can have George to come to the desk there, and you have 3 minutes from when you start.
Thank you. Chair, thank you for the opportunity to address the committee. This proposal delivers 15 much-needed, supported living, affordable homes in Stapleford, directly tackling a critical housing shortfall in Broxtowe. It redevelops a vacant garage site with modern, accessible and secure homes for vulnerable adults, providing 5 bungalows, flats and dedicated office space designed sensitively to respect local character. The scheme is fully supported in principle. Nottingham City Council has written in support, confirming the development aligns with their strategy of reducing reliance on residential care, and they're committed to securing a provider to operate the scheme. Homes will be operated by a housing association with acute levels of on-site care and support. Key concerns have been addressed. The layout protects neighbour amenity, drainage and traffic impacts have been mitigated, and a biodiversity net gain of almost 20% is secured through robust conditions. The site is in a highly sustainable location, a short walk from the town and well served by buses. Existing unsuitable access from Manor Avenue will be closed, and safe parking and turning provided via a new driveway from Church Street. As Mr Dawson has just said, but to repeat, the Section 106 package is policy compliant and provides clear community benefits, over £26,000 towards open space, £17,000 for tree compensation, £15,000 for Stapleford's community transport scheme and £22,000 for bus stop improvements, plus free introductory bus travel for residents. In short, this is a fully funded, well-designed development. It meets an urgent need for supported housing, brings wider social and environmental benefits and ensures concerns are managed through conditions and obligations. I respectfully urge the committee to support your office's recommendation and grant planning permission. This scheme offers much needed supported housing and will make a real difference for vulnerable residents in Stapleford. Thank you.
Thank you. So we now have Edward, who's objecting to the application. Thank you. So once again, three minutes from when you start.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm speaking on behalf of residents. Both myself, I live on Manor Avenue, alongside a number of individuals who myself and my wife have spoken to within the last few weeks and months regarding this planning. There are a number of concerns about the planning. We appreciate the fact that it is an open space and we appreciate the fact that it was always going to be utilised in some way or other, but there are some concerns in terms of the plans. Number one, the garages, which we are assured have asbestos involved within them, and we would like assurances that they were going to be disposed of in an appropriate manner in order to be undertaken by experts, so that that doesn't affect those people on the roads either side. And obviously within that area we're very aware of the vermin issues that occur within there as well, both affecting Manor Avenue and Northwood, the other side as well. So those need to be dealt with by the people taking on that particular plan. In terms of the plans themselves, one of the primary objections from residents is that of privacy. The one-storey building's not an issue, but in terms of having a 3-storey residence nearby, it's a massive overlooking over individual gardens. In addition, it also then creates a sense of enclosure, blocks sunlight from people's gardens as well. It will be one of the highest buildings in the area, looking at the plans from the side, which will be out of keeping from the area in themselves. Regarding the drainage, having looked at the plans that have been given in, obviously it's already close to the floodplain, something that's been commented on initially, but the report says they provides drainage for 10 dwellings, but there are 15 dwellings on that site, plus offices. That additional drainage would apparently go to the river. We obviously realise the fact that we're on the edge of a floodplain. If that drainage does go to the river, obviously that increases the possibility of there being floods within the area in the future. The issue of access, the portion of the road through 99 Church Road is a junction on a blind bend. It's also directly opposite Church Road, the other side, the little private road. And there are already problems with increased traffic due to the development on Aiken Lane. So that's obviously a concern in terms of those things. And the parking, there's already problematic on Manor Avenue. There's 15 dwellings and offices, there's only 8 spaces for parking. There are issues with fire lorries, bin lorries, in order to get down there anyway. So during the building, particularly when we had clearing the road in order to allow development at the end of that turning initially, there were issues regarding that. We were concerned about who it was for. A lot of this is just to try to make sure that we have clarity of knowing exactly what is happening with the development, as a lot of things seem to be happening to one side and not necessarily with our knowledge.
That's 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have ward member Councillor McRae, who is wants to say something as well. So, Richard, you've got 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. I think a lot of the stuff is what I'm going to read, probably repeating what the residents have said, but I'll read it as we wrote it anyway. So I'm speaking tonight on behalf of local residents of Church Street, Northwood Street and Manor Avenue, who have asked me to raise their objections to this application. Let me be clear, the residents are against the proposal. They have made their views known to me in no uncertain terms, and I am here to make sure their voices are heard. The first issue is clarity on who exactly will live there. The application simply refers to vulnerable adults. The phrase is too broad and has caused concern and fear locally. Residents want to know if this is for adults with learning disabilities, mental health needs or another capacity. They want honesty and transparency. Without it, the community feels in the dark. Secondly, Manor Avenue access. And I know you've said it's going to be closed, but let's just make sure. Manor access. Residents insist the entrance must remain permanently closed. They are not prepared to accept either pedestrian or vehicle access from Manor Avenue, now or in the future. If this application is approved, the restriction on Manor Avenue must be written down clearly as a binding condition. The drainage. The documents talk about 15 dwellings, but some sections appear to refer to 10. Residents want reassurance that the drainage and flood assessments have been carried out at the full development of 15 units, not just part of the scheme. This is important as the site is on the edge of the identified flood risk area. And then back to the asbestos. The garages on the site may contain asbestos and residents are worried about safety during demolition. They want absolute assurance that any removal of asbestos will be carried out legally, safely and strictly within environmental health guidelines so that neighbouring families are not put at risk. And finally, that the great concern about the new access road off Church Street. The road is already heavily used. Vehicles often travel at speed and it can be difficult and dangerous to cross. Add a new junction will only increase those risks. Residents believe the safety implications have not been fully addressed. Alongside these issues, people are always worried about overlooking, loss of privacy, noise, antisocial behaviour, lack of parking and the scale of this development not fitting in with the local character. The people I represent are not against supported living in principle. What they are against is the specific development in this location without the proper safeguarding and transparency. So if members are minded to approve it, then at the very least, Manor Avenue access must remain closed by condition without exception. The applicant must provide clear details of who will live there and who will manage the site, and the drainage report must be confirmed as covering all 15 dwellings. Asbestos removal must be carried out legally and safely, and road safety concerns, access must be properly mitigated. But I repeat again, residents are against this application and they've asked me to make that crystal clear to the committee this evening. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Okay, thank you, Richard. So that's our speakers who've said their piece. So many thanks for that. In order to open the debate, I will move the item from the chair. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Pauline. Right, okay. Councillor Carr.
I'm sorry, I think you just...
I think they're all warming up.
Yes.
Can I just ask or clarification? I'm sure the person that just spoke from the people wanting to build the properties said that they'd got approval from Nottingham City Council. Was that the case, or was it Nottinghamshire County Council?
City.
Mr. Machin.
City.
The city. Well,
Yeah.
we're not in the city.
No, it's not City.
Anyway, not yet. Anyway.
They're private
I
housing.
read the whole thing and it looks a very, very good scheme. However, there's one paragraph that really stands out for me, and it's a paragraph that leads me to worry as to why we've actually come here with a recommendation to approve, when, in my opinion, we should be refusing it. And that is on page 25, and it's paragraph 5.2. The county lead local flood authority. So they are the people that look after the flooding issues in the county. They object. The drainage strategy is unacceptable. Due to the flood risk, more appropriate sites with lower risk should be considered to ensure the development will be safe for its lifetime. given the number of issues we've had with flooding in the borough over the last few years, I'm absolutely amazed that we haven't picked up on this. And I'm amazed that we're not recommending refusal at this stage. Thank you, that's all I need to say.
Okay, Ryan, can you come back with that straight away?
Yeah, the report's not clear, evidently. They did object initially. They did some further works and they moved part of it out the drainage site in the bottom southwestern corner. And the LFA did not object anymore following updated information. So the initial response was to object, but it does say in the body of the report, following updated plans, they don't object to the scheme now and they're now comfortable on page 34. I don't think that's as clear as it should be, for which I apologise, but they don't object to the scheme on flooding grounds. So there's no issues with regards to flooding.
Councillor Watts.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm picking up on the same point. When I read this, I spotted paragraph 5.2. I also spotted paragraph 6.37, which is page 34. In response, the applicant has submitted a drainage strategy for the site which has been reviewed by the lead local flood authority, who have provided no objections. It's really significant what that doesn't say. And if it was meant to say this report needs kicking back to somebody to put it right properly, because I'm not going to make a decision based on something that is not down in writing when it's so serious as this. What it doesn't say is that that objection has been withdrawn. And without that, there is no way I could support this. I have other concerns about overlooking and the impact on the neighbours, but I've been flooded. I know what it's like. I know the absolute pain of seeing all your belongings thrown into a skip because your house has been destroyed. I know the smell of the damp in the house. The only time my wife cried in that experience was when they brought out the chest of drawers that had all the papers in for the adoption of our children, which had been destroyed. The only photo we had of my younger daughter's birth father destroyed in a flood. Unless we are absolutely clear in black and white that there is no objection, I cannot support this. Saying the report is not clear, I'm afraid, is simply not good enough.
Ryan.
I haven't finished.
Sorry, Councillor Watts.
Yeah. We know, I know, the horror of being flooded. I would love to support a scheme for supported living, but it has to be the right scheme. It has to have the right protections. And absolutely, it needs to be. If we are saying there are no objections, I want the acting chief executive to put his name to the report in black and white, saying there is no concern over flooding, because this report at the moment doesn't say that. And for that reason, I cannot support this scheme. Okay.
Can I come back on that straight away?
Yeah.
Sorry to come back on that straight away. Page 27, 5.1.8. The local flood authority, under the italics of second consultation, no objection, subject conditioning surface water drainage strategy. I've just been texting the officer who's sitting over there. We've had no objections following the updated plans on flooding. So we do not have any objections on flooding grounds. They moved part of the site to accommodate that. So I can verify there are no issues in flooding grounds on those points. Thank you.
Well, in that case, I would suggest that this is deferred back to the next meeting to get a report properly written.
There's no need. I've told them.
Is that?
I'll move that as an amendment.
I'll second that.
Okay. Vote on that now.
No, do it later.
Do it later. Okay. Pauline.
that was the point I was going to make, because it was set 5.1.
Yeah, it's
Right. Okay.
I was going to say, I'm assuming that we are conditioning a surface water drainage strategy.
So, are there any other comments that anybody wants to make? Councillor Owen.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think there are a number of concerns that have been raised by the report and by the application. We're told now that there are no objections from the lead local flood authority, and their removal of objections is subject to conditioning a surface water drainage strategy. Have we received that strategy yet?
No, I don't think I have because it's part of the condition.
Because we've been here before in other applications up in the north of the borough, and we are told, this will come and they won't be able to develop until we've got a satisfactory water drainage strategy in place. And yet developments seem to have gone on, and we've experienced flooding and other issues associated with drainage. And so I think we've got to have grave concerns about that. And I'm not sure deferral is necessarily the right way forward. I think if you are concerned, then outright refusal should be the order of the evening. I'm also concerned about the overlooking aspect of this development, where when you look at the site map there, clearly adjacent properties are going to be, in some cases, significantly overlooked. And that is a loss of amenity for residents and is not fair. It really isn't fair. And so the design should take account of that. Just as an aside, just flicking through, I'm surprised at how little we are asking for in section 106 contributions. It's a pittance, really. 15 grand to the Helpful Bureau Community Transport Scheme, which may be used to support community transport projects. Well, it may be used, it may not be used, we don't know. Bus stop improvements, well, okay, that means putting bus shelters and the real-time bus signs up. Well, that's always an advantage, except the real-time signs are never real-time. They're imaginary, well, in my area, Trent Barton times rather than real times. And future obligation to be provided free introductory bus travel. The significant word there is introductory. Don't mean indefinitely, it means one-off to start off with for a few months. And I want to pick up on a point that Councillor Carr made, because I was amazed to read this. I thought it must be a misprint, but paragraph 6.6, a letter of support from Nottingham City Council. Well, they're getting in already, aren't they? Local government reorganisation is at least 2.5 years, 3 years down the line, and yet they're taking over already. We heard that this was to meet the needs of Broxtowe. Well, how's it meeting the needs of Broxtowe when Nottingham City Council are going to import their people into it? It's not going to meet the needs of Broxtowe at all. It may be meeting the needs of Nottingham City Council, but fortunately at the moment, we're not responsible for them, and heaven help us if we ever have to be, or they're responsible to us. And very generously, the City Council would secure a support provider for the development. That's big of them, isn't it? You know, God, dear. An indicating of something that may take place further on. But I come back to an old favourite of mine, Chairman, parking. Or more to the point, lack of it. We're told at paragraph 6.29, while the proposed parking provision is below the maximum limit, the site is in a built-up residential area. Well, I noticed that. I didn't make the site visit. I thought I followed the directions of the senior planning officer this morning, and I seem to be going in the wrong direction. I don't know if that was intentional or not. But by the time I got there, there was nobody there. But what I could see, when I did eventually find it, when I put in my sat nav that never lies, I'm not saying Mr. Ryan, Mr. Dawson, of course not. What I did notice when I drove past, the side roads were all full of cars. They're all full of cars. And we are supporting a development that has below the standard of parking requirement that we would normally expect. And it's noted that those living in supported living accommodation are less likely to own or have access to vehicles. Well, that's a nonsense in this day and age. Many of them do have vehicles and access to vehicles. And of course, the old standby, so beloved of the planners, and I don't know where it is, it's in a sustainable location. That wonderful word, sustainable. That means it's got some buses, I haven't got a tram in this case, but it's got some buses, and buses that everybody's going to use, so they think. Therefore, you don't need car parking spaces. Well, if that were the case, Beeston wouldn't have any cars in it at all, because you can't have a more sustainable area. Tram, buses, cycleways, and yet it's jam-packed with cars. So this is a nonsense to come out and say that. So I would not support this, because I think whilst the land does need some development, this is not sufficiently well designed and executed, in my view, for that location, and therefore should be rejected and the applicant told to go away and come back with something that's more appropriate.
Thank you, Philip. Anybody else got any other Councillor Bunn?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on some of the other comments that have been raised now that haven't been addressed, although also before that, just to second that thing on 6.6, like, can we get clarity on like why this is being supported by Nottingham City Council and not the County Council, and why they're involving themselves in something when, as I say, we are not part of the city. One of the other concerns that was raised by the residents earlier on was around access, and saying that they don't want the access to be coming off Manor Avenue. I just want to clarify that is addressed in the conditions. I believe that there will be no access from Manor Avenue, just to confirm, because that question's been raised, that is the case. And the other concern that they've raised, again, one of the ones that's not been addressed, was around asbestos and the removal of that from the garages. Obviously, there are regulations that apply to anything to removal of asbestos and how that has to be done and thing. But I wonder if it's worth adding a condition around that, just to add that additional security for residents. And I'd like to have the planning officer's feedback on that point. And the final thing is just on the parking. I mean, the thing that strikes me, I mean, I will always talk about parking. I am a councillor for Beeston, and it's always an issue for us where we keep having developers come forward and want to build flats and houses and not provide any parking at all quite regularly. There's one that I've forwarded on to planning office just this week, where they want to build, I think it's 6 flats with no parking provision at all, because it's near a tram and a train station. And that means that people won't use cars. And that's not a supported living, that's just general accommodation, which is interesting. And it's something that I think will come up later tonight as well. My thing here is, I just think that there are, looking at that site map, it does look like they could provide some extra parking, like, fairly easily. It's not a case of there is nowhere in there that they could adjust it to make parking. So I do wonder if deferring it, letting them have a look and adding in some extra places might be the right way to go at this point. Thank you.
Councillor Pringle.
Thanks, Chair. It's just para 647. It says, as the proposal is for less than 25 units and a single occupancy, no health or education contributions have been requested by the NHS, ICB or NCC planning policy. I mean, if we've got lots of these little places where there's less than 25 units and they're all still providing people that need medical support, there comes a point when we've got to say, well, hang on a minute, are these people going to stay healthy continually? We can't keep on accepting little plots of land with people in and saying there's no NHS help needed, because I know the doctors in Stapleford, because I've read it this week in a message, they just haven't got any room for any more patients. So that's a big problem for me.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Pringle. Anybody else want to make any more comments before I get Ryan to come back on it? Okay, Ryan, if you want to come back to those points raised.
Okay, thank you. I'll start with the obvious element room, the flooding. All the details we've submitted so far, the LFA are content with. There's a condition that basically, I think it's condition 23, so I'm looking at it, but basically says pre-commencement No development hereby approved shall commence until detailed surface water drainage scheme, etc., 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 shall be submitted to and approved by us. We always get those schemes in and send it to the relevant flooding authority, and therefore nothing will happen on site until they agree those details. Everything they've sent to us so far, we are happy with, as are the LFA. However, there's still a condition on there to make sure that additional details they send to us are compliant and there's no issues with regards to flooding. So I do think that point's covered. I'll go through the other points as raised in various different orders. It's a housing association for vulnerable adults. I've got no further detail than then. It's up to the relevant housing association as to which type of vulnerable adults, with all respect, goes into the site. We can't control it any more than that, nor can condition it because it's not enforceable in planning terms. Nottingham City are involved in the provision of the housing care, which is why there's some written letter of support. I don't think it's got anything more to do with it than that. With regards to the asbestos and the garages, I actually spoke to the development site about it earlier, but we've got a condition 9 about a SEMP, which is a construction management plan, that will deal with the issues with regards to safety disposing of all aspects of material on site, which would include asbestos. It's covered by the HSC and other legislation, but it is covered in the planning petition as well. I do take the point that's raised regularly with regards to parking and Hives objections. Hives have not objected to this scheme. The NPPF, which is our national document we refer to, talks about highway safety, and unless the issues are severe, you can't refuse on highway safety grounds. They don't seem to be severe here, therefore there's no objection to highways. I'm not sure whether there's any more space on site or not with regards to parking. There were some ownership issues earlier looked at, but it doesn't the case. I've got a couple of these sites near where I live, and the parking is often very low. But there's only 8 parking space on site. I've covered the flooding issue. Amenity, most of the properties are 34 metres away from the 2-storey building to some of the properties at an angle. We've had a lot closer relationships than that all over the borough. They've been perfectly acceptable. If using this in amenity grounds, I'd say we struggle at Peel. We'd have very limited chance at Peel on amenity grounds because the angle is that, the length of the gardens. There's no amenity issues at all. In regards to the policy and the health that Councillor Pringle raised, we'd have to get a local plan changed. It's not policy. I take your point, we've got a health provision, but they've not asked for any and we can't request it. So it's not an issue here. So that's where that is in that one. I think that's it. If there's anything I've missed, please shout up.
No? Okay. So I think I'll take the proposal to defer it first.
Does Councillor McRae have a right of reply as the ward member?
I don't think so.
No? Okay, all right.
You're right anyway. So I'll take the proposal to defer it, which was proposed by Councillor Watts and seconded by Councillor Carr. So can I see all those in favour? All those against? Okay, so that's defeated. So okay, so we'll now go on to the. So, in terms of the proposal to accept planning, the recommendation for the Planning Commission to be granted, as it appears on page 37 of your agenda, can I see all those in favour? Can I see all those against? Okay, so I can confirm that the recommendation is carried. Thank you. Item 5.2 then is 7 Nottingham Road, Trowell. The application seeks permission to construct 3 buildings to provide 2 flats and 2 bungalows along with parking and new access. Ryan, can you introduce the item please?
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarity, because I think I got this wrong earlier, there are 3 buildings proposed on this site, 2 detached bungalows at the back and 2 flats in 1 building towards the front of the site. This is following the demolition of 7 Nottingham Road, which is an existing cottage. It's a 1 2-bed bungalow, 1 3-bed bungalow, both the patio area and their own private garden and parking. And the flats are 2 bedrooms, and flats for 2 bedrooms, both are in amenity space and parking. The principal's okay.
Just hold on. Excuse me, if you want to discuss it, can you go outside, please? Yeah, but it's actually, we're in a meeting at the moment. Thank you. Sorry, Ryan.
That's all right, it's fine. Where do I get to? Flats are 2 bedrooms, both with their own amenity space and parking. The principal's okay. It's on a brownfield site. It's kind of underutilised. The vacant dwelling on it. It's a good use for land. The scheme is smaller than previous suggested layouts that the applicant has come in with, and now works sufficiently to efficiently use the site appropriately. The layout works to confines of the site and basically considers the uses both to the sides and the rear. Some concerns are raised that flats are out of keeping with the area, though if and when constructed, this scheme will work well in the locality, and there's no justification to refuse the scheme based on the inclusion of flats alone, particularly the way the scheme is designed. Amenity, no issues here with either the provision for existing properties or the impact on neighbours, largely due to the height and the bungalows at the back and the orientation of the windows. Access and parking is okay, subject to conditions. There's a SEMP, which is a construction management plan, are covered in the conditions to cover the issues of construction, and there's no issues with regards to waste or bin provision. Ecology, BNG, 17.38% increase overall, and the Notts Wildlife Trust raised no objections, but as you'll see from the report, there were lengthy discussions on this with them, and they've collaborated throughout. So they objected initially, but during the course of several responses, they're now happy with it. Subject to a Section 106, which will be for biodiversity net gain monitoring only, we're happy to approve it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ryan. There are no public speakers on this item, so in order for us to progress, I'll move the item from the chair.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Pauline. Anybody want to make any comments with regards to this? Councillor Pringle.
Thank you, Chair. As the ward councillor for the area, I have a few words to say. The first proposal made, as Ryan quite correctly pointed out, was for 6 flats, which was complete and utter nonsense because it's such a small area. I've had discussions with the officer and discussions with the local residents. They are not happy with the current proposal. They would be very happy if it was 3 bungalows, because what they see with the 3 bungalows is that nothing is going to overlook them at all, because it's all totally enclosed with hedging. But as soon as you put the flats in, what you've got is an issue with people losing their amenity. The other thing is that the initial exit is quite dangerous, exit and entrance, and due to the addition of the flats, the exit and entrances can be moved. Instead of moving it further away from the bend, it's actually moving it closer to the bend, which actually makes it even more dangerous than it is at the moment. So the residents, you've seen all the comments from the residents. I think they're fairly good points, and I just think that what we've got here is a little area that could provide 3 bungalows. Those 3 bungalows could then be used probably by people in the village or even people outside the village, which might then release.
Yeah, just one sec.
Which I'll wait.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What's going on?
It's probably the guy having a go at the agent, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah. The big bloke just having a go at the agent.
Oh, right.
Sorry, Councillor.
Sorry. Okay. So what I was saying is there's a bit in the report that says about we're looking for extra housing, and housing being built like this would provide that need. But what we need in villages is villages with older people. They're bungalows, because bungalows provide a home for older people to move into, which then releases bigger houses within the village or in the area for families to move into. So, I mean, that's why I'm saying that the residents would be happy with bungalows. The bungalows would free up housing, which is what this wants to do as well. But I have got some concern about the entrance and the exit. And in its current form, I can't support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to make any comments? Councillor Ball.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm also the ward councillor. I think the 2 bungalows is great, and I understand what Don is saying, that would be ideal for people that live locally, can move into those bungalows and releases other houses, and I think we need a bit more of that. The only thing I do have against it is that block of flats, but to me that's out of keeping with the rest of the area. I mean, some of us went there this morning, didn't we? And we saw they were all bungalows, low buildings, and I just felt that another bungalow would be great. I just felt that that block of flats just changes the whole look of that area, and I didn't like that really, and so I'm not going to support it. Sorry.
Okay. Any other comments from anyone? Councillor Smith.
Yeah, I also went to the site visit this morning, and yeah, I kind of see the point, but I think a mix of housing is a good thing. And we're not. I mean, when you say block of flats, it makes it sound like it's a big tower block, and it's not. It's
I know what
2 flats.
Yeah.
And I think probably the area can cope with 2 flats. The access, yeah, it's a busy road on a bend, but everyone else has got driveways on it. It's not really any different, I think, for these properties than for any other.
Okay, I mean, I'd just like to make the point, because I went on the site visit again, in that, you know, there are 2-storey houses across the road, behind, and 2 doors down. So, you know, I wasn't so concerned about the house, the flat, which, you know, is basically 2 flats, 1 house, isn't it, really? Okay, Ryan, do you want to come back on anything?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay, if everybody's happy then, let's move to the vote. So, once again, can I see those all in favour? All those against? No abstentions. Okay, so I can confirm that the recommendation is carried. So item 5.3 is 22 Muriel Road, Beeston, Nottinghamshire. The applicant seeks permission for a proposed change of use from house in multiple occupation class C4 to a residential children's care home class C2. Ryan, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So this is not a HIMO, I'll stress, it's going from a HIMO to a children's home, and there are no external changes, and so there are no issues in that regard. There's a few alterations internally to accommodate 3 bedrooms for future occupants and 2 bedrooms for staff. The majority of the time there's 2 or 3 adults alongside the bedroom, and only 4 adults there during the handover shifts mid-morning. If you read the contents of the report, main concerns here are raising about parking and the use of the property. The use of the property is fine in planning terms, and there are no planning policy conflicts here. And daily operations would be akin to a family house, and therefore we have no issues. Some concerns have been raised about the future occupants and the potential for ASB activity, but it should be noted that there's 24-hour provision here by trained professionals and a secure design plan to mitigate any issues. There's lots and lots of detail in the report about this, in the main outlining how the applicants have addressed these concerns with regards to designing out crime and similar where they're able to. Parking wise, there's been a few concerns here. I can clarify they've signed certificate A. They do own the site, because that's one of the concerns raised. The site is in a sustainable location with lots of travel options, including a tram nearby. But following amended plans, the relocation of the bike store to the rear of the property, which is why we've got pictures here showing it, no issues. 3 parking spaces is sufficient because there is some local road parking available. There are no high-rise objections. Recommend approval. Thank you, Chair.
Any comments from anyone? Councillor Carr.
Yes, Thank you. I actually called this in. I'd say at the outset that I've got absolutely no problem with children living in the community rather than in institutions, because it's never worked in the past and it's actually probably been detrimental to the children in care. However, I think we need to be absolutely certain that it isn't going to cause any problems. Now, the reason I say this, and when this application first came out, I thought, oh, that's no problem. But I have one of these homes on Middleton Crescent, which is a very well-heeled road. It's been there for years and it's never been a problem. It had 5 young adults in it at one time and there was no issues at all. But then the ownership of this home changed and it has been hell for the people on Middleton Crescent. And I think it's all to do with, and you said they're going to be looked after 24 hours by trained adults. Well, they are on Middleton Crescent as well, and they run riot at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. The police are involved, everything. What I want, and I think what the residents want, because I don't think the residents are that bothered about who's living there, so long as they're going to be kept safe and there's going to be no antisocial behaviour. What I want to know is, and I think what the residents want to know is, what remedies have we got as an authority to actually determine that the people that are inside, the young children that are inside these, are kept in order, are looked after and aren't allowed to run riot as they are doing on Middleton Crescent. Now, again, it's all down to who runs the home. Nothing to do with the fact that the children are bad, because they're not bad. They're not bad. They're children who are in a terrible situation in their life and they need supporting. They're not being supported if they're allowed to misbehave and they're allowed to commit antisocial behaviour. So I think what I need to know, and what the residents need to know, is they've given all these assurances and all these documents, etc., saying how they're going to look after them, what have you. What happens if they don't? What remedies has this authority got? And that's what worries me.
Thank you. Anybody else got a comment? Councillor Owen.
I can answer Councillor Carr's question in one word: none. This authority has no powers whatsoever. And if you contact the antisocial behaviour team here, you get no joy. None whatsoever. In fact, they take the side of the perpetrators. And I speak from bitter experience of a property on Highbury Close at Nuttall, where we had exactly the same sort of thing, with disturbance after disturbance, children screaming in the middle of the night, and they were looked after. I've heard it all before, by paid professionals. Of course, you're right, Councillor Carr. These homes need to exist in the right location and with the right management. And we've got an app, and I know Mr. Dawson will say, well, this isn't a planning issue. We've got a company here that started this April. There's no history of what they've been able to do. We don't know what Ofsted reports there are, because there aren't any. It's a company that appears to have been set up. Looking on the gov.uk, it's based on Woollerton Vale. There's an address on Woollerton Vale. I noticed that they've not got any of these properties on Woollerton Vale, but that's another story. And we're told, Chairman, on the one hand, that it's going to be a typical family home. Well, I can't say that I had a behaviour plan in place when we had our son, and what I find interesting is that the environmental health officer notes, and I think this is telling in paragraph 5.4, however, without proper mitigations, the proposals have the potential to have an adverse impact on local amenity for the following reason. The operational phase of the development has the potential to cause adverse impact to the amenity of existing sensitive receptors, I'm not quite sure what that means, existing sensitive receptors due to its impact noise. And the proposed condition to deal with that concern is a noise and antisocial behaviour mitigation plan. Well, it's all very well having a plan, but it's the ability to implement it that's the critical thing. And I know from my previous roles that getting good, well-qualified professional staff to manage these sort of situations is exceedingly difficult indeed. And who's going to vet that mitigation plan? What expertise is there in the department, the planning department, to vet that mitigation plan, to say, yes, it's going to work? And also, if you look at paragraph 5.6, it's the standard police response, because they're not really locally allowed to object, even though they would like to, seriously. This is police speak from the senior team of Nottinghamshire Constabulary. But the local police will know that it will be a huge drain on their resources, because one thing you'll see in Beeston, in that area, will be a lot of police, because they will be being called out on a regular basis, diverted from other duties. I've always felt that these sort of establishments, which of course are very profit yielding, ought to be charged for the excess police time that they have, that they take up, but of course that will never happen. I think this reads like a horror story. Would I want it near to me? No, I wouldn't. Will we all be getting these near to us? Yes, we will. Oh, yes, we will. Because even if we turn it down, or if you turn it down, because as you know, I can't vote. If you turned it down tonight, I've not the slightest doubt it would be upheld on appeal. And we need, as local representatives, to be able to stop this sort of thing happening, and to have controls, and to be able to close it down if the behaviour mitigation plan doesn't work. And I can tell you from the outset, it won't. And I don't envy you, Councillor Carr, because you will be getting inundated with complaints once it operates. And I know what it's like. It takes up an awful lot of your time, but the telling thing, the awful thing about it is it ruins the lives of residents.
I would just like to endorse that on Highbury Close, where the same thing happened, the people who were managing it were totally unsuitable, and drugs were introduced. And I would like to make the point that those drugs spread to a house near me, and 2 people turned up wearing face masks and wielded a gun at the occupant of the house. And 5 police cars turned up. Eventually it was closed down because the police refused to police it, and it was that bad. And I most certainly would stand up against this in a residential area we have no track record of this company that is setting it up.
Thank you. Councillor Bunn.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on this discussion because it's veering out of planning and into antisocial behaviour, and I feel it would be remiss if I didn't comment here, so considering my portfolio is community safety. I think the problem that we have here is that these concerns and concerns about antisocial behaviour in, in our wards, in our borough, are always concerning. It's certainly something that we don't want to be seeing, and it is something that we take very seriously. These are like legitimate concerns. They aren't, and Ryan, I'm sure will confirm this in a minute. They aren't planning concerns that can be thinking, but they are things that we need to address. And I will be picking this up with our officers after this meeting to see if there's what we can do to strengthen this and what support that we can write to from government to make sure that we've got the powers in place to be addressing this. I think what we have at the moment is we have a failure of the social care system, which is pushing it out into the community, and it sounds like we don't have the policies in place maybe to address that properly, and I'll make sure that gets picked up and gets looked at. Not only because we have these properties already in the areas, and I will say, like, I've got several in my ward as well, and we have several that are very well run and don't cause problems, or if there is an issue, it gets addressed very quickly and it gets picked up and gets sorted, and the nearby residents have absolutely no problem with it and are very supportive of it. We've got one that's run for many years, and in fact has extended into sort of properties nearby and is done very well. And then we have had other issues with properties that haven't been managed well, and we have had to intervene, and we've worked with the county and with the environment and health team at Broxton Borough Council to make sure those issues are addressed, and that has improved, and the residents now nearby are happy with it. But so I'm not saying that there are no issues with this sort of thing. I'm saying that this is an antisocial behaviour thing and needs to be addressed in such a way, and you can say I'm on record as to say that we'll make sure that gets looked at, and if anyone wants to send me further information about specific properties and what's been happening with them, please do so, and I'll make sure that this gets picked up.
Thank you, Councillor Bunn. Right, Ryan, do you want to come back? Sorry, go on, Councillor Marshall.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't surprise me that, Councillor Owen didn't comment on the crisis in children's social care, which is partly driving some of the issues that he's alluded to, given that it's been austerity cuts over the last 15 years, millions of pounds out of the system that have led to it. I was trying to find the exact number of children's care homes in Broxton. It could be found if you go through the myriad of the website. There's actually 379 in the East Midlands, I think. And of course, Councillor Carr was balanced with his contribution. He said he had direct experience of one on Middleton Crescent that operated without problems. It was almost exemplar for a number of years, so it comes down to the provider, which then of course falls outside of planning conditions. I think it is important to also correct what I suspect is an overreach by Councillor Owen on a couple of occasions. I think he said the police would like to object to these but don't. I think he said that. I don't know how he knows that, or indeed with what authority he speaks on that. And I think he also said that if you report issues to the ASB team here, that they take the side of the perpetrator. I don't know how he says that and on what evidence he can base that on. I suspect that that's not true. I suspect you may have anecdotal experience.
Hang on.
Sorry, but
Yeah.
I'm harassed.
Yeah, I understand.
You can respond.
Yeah, I'll come back. But, the point I'm making is he may have an incident where something has happened. But, in that case, but I don't think that is a policy position of the ASB teams here, that they will take the side of perpetrators as a policy position in this authority. So, I'd reject that. In that sense, that I think that in terms of planning terms that we should consider, I think what is actually instructive, although, one could argue that the consultation was extended slightly further than it was to neighbouring properties, is that of the neighbouring properties that were consulted, only one of them has objected in that sense. Now, I accept that, that might be directly related to experience of issues that might arise from any institution, but only one of those neighbours has objected in that sense, and that is of course always instructive when we as councillors should be considering our opinion on an application. So you know, it is important to recognise that we should stick to planning issues on that rather than personal kind of views on the social care system, and I'll be sticking to them when I make my decision.
Do you want to briefly respond, Councillor Owen?
Yes, Councillor Marshall called virtually a liar. You didn't quite use that word. As far as the ASB team here is concerned, the issue with Highbury Close, every time I complained, I was told, well, the responsibility is for safeguarding of the individuals and not the residents. And I felt I was undermined, certainly when I was dealing with the police by the antisocial behaviour team here. So I very much have evidence of that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ball, let's move on.
Thank you, Chair. I find these sort of applications, well, as you know, I quite find them heartbreaking, really, because I do realise that there has to be children needed to be safe cared and places for them to go and to be cared for. The only thing that struck me about this tonight is I'm just going back to one we had planning in Alresworth. I think it was on Park Hill. And when the neighbours found out, they all en masse came to the parish council, great concerns about it, and I think they came here as well. And I haven't noticed that tonight with this application from the local people. So I'm just thinking, well, oh, sorry. Oh, I do apologise. I thought you might have spoken. Nobody came to speak. Oh, right. Well,
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Re-
just found out about this yesterday.
Okay.
Further down the road.
Okay.
Spoke to a few other people. I know there was 20
Yeah.
next door.
Yeah.
Sorry, the opportunity
I'm
was
sorry,
given to people to speak.
upset
And there's no
the,
speaking. So
upset the
if you
apple
continue,
cart.
Councillor.
I'm sorry, but I do find it very hard when you're dealing with lives of children that need somewhere to go and need to be looked after.
Yeah.
And I just wish that these places, I know we can't guarantee that they're going to be taken care of and they're not going to cause trouble and all that. It's very difficult. Well, I find it difficult. I find it heartbreaking, actually.
Okay.
And I just wish there was some way we could, that residents were happy and that the homes were cared for and looked after properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Watts.
Yeah, thank you very much. There was a real presumption in Councillor Owen's comments that the residents in this home would be, frankly, feral animals. It is utterly wrong to condemn children simply for being in care. There is nothing in this report that says that these are young offenders. There's nothing that says that they are people who have been responsible for antisocial behaviour. There are policies put forward to address were there to be issues there. And frankly, the problems of these houses tend to be problems of poor management, not of any planning issues. I frequently find myself appalled by what the Tories come out with, and this sort of attitude of condemning kids just because they've had a bad start in life is a real illustration of everything that is wrong with the Conservative Party. To the local residents, I would say, don't fear kids simply because they are in care. Work with them, support them, get to know them. You'll find that most children in care are actually really nice kids who have some utterly tragic stories. And rather than just condemn them, actually help them, and life would be an awful lot better.
Okay, can we just bring this back to the planning, actually? Ryan, if everybody's... sorry, Councillor Pringle.
Thank you, Chair. If you read paragraph 5.2, which is the neighbours, we've just been told a second ago that was only one neighbour that objected. It actually says 4 neighbouring properties were consulted on the application with 1 response received. Response objected to the proposal. 2 further responses were received from additional contributors, with 1 response objecting and the other raising concerns. The reason for the objections and concerns raised are noted below, and there's sort of about 10 key points as to what they said. So what was said was there was only 1 objection. It's not quite true, because quite clearly of the 4 people that were consulted, 3 of them objected.
You've misunderstood again, Dom.
That's what you said.
Hang on. Okay. Do you want to come back, Councillor?
Yeah, what I clearly said was that of the 4 neighbouring properties that were consulted, 1 objected.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Ryan, do you want to... Hang on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I've a right to reply to what Councillor then.
Do you want to reply now or wait until after Ryan's comments?
Well, no, that's to come before Ryan's comments.
Does it? Okay.
Look, for not for one moment am I condemning these children. Absolutely not at all. What I don't like is limited companies coming in, private companies coming in, and then expecting to be able to deliver something that's a very specialist service. And that is what's concerning me about this case. I know that we cannot reject it because of that, because it's not a planning consideration. But what I am concerned at is that we get people to give us these mitigations and these plans and everything. But if things don't go to plan, it would appear that we've got absolutely no control over that. Now, I will say to the people here tonight, it's likely to go through tonight. But, you know, if there are issues, you know where I am, you know my phone number. Don't do what somebody did on Middleton Crescent and phone me at 3 in the morning, please. But if it is as urgent as that, phone the police. Hopefully, and let's keep everything crossed, there won't be any problems. But I think we just need to address, and I think Councillor Bunn has said, that we need to try and put something in place that if there is a problem, we are able to do something about it. And I think that's all I think the people of Muriel Road want. Certainly what the people on Middleton Crescent want, because they're still going through this situation. So that's all I want to say.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point in terms of the marketing and privatisation of the service. Yes. Same with education, health, and lots of areas. And unfortunately, that is the situation that we're currently in. Ryan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll bring it back to planning. I'll try to. I think many issues raised here in regards to the management of it. There are many family homes on my street where the management of the people inside the homes is questionable. And that's got nothing to do with children's homes. However, and I would include myself in that, if I'm honest. However, the issue here, I think main concerns is something that planning can't control, and I think we all know that, unfortunately. 3 or 4 years ago, and I don't know exactly when it was, none of these children's homes require permission. Ofsted brought it in where now they have to apply for such uses, I think, and I'm guessing here largely, so that the Ofsted to get a licence can check that the rooms to start with are the right size, you have the right management requirements, you have the right rooms, etc. to start off at least from the right place. I think then moving forward, it's based on how well they're run or not, based on the comments being raised. However, planning can't control that. It will be controlled by the Ofsted, who's a government body, or by the police. However, Ofsted, to give them if you want credit for it, they have brought it in that you have to apply for these in the first place. So they've got a record where they are, so they actually can police them moving forward. So that's why I have them. There's several of them across the borough, I'm sure, which they had planning in the first place because they didn't need it. It's only coming recently. Having said that, in summary, if something happens with regards to the management of the property, it is an Ofsted issue, a police issue, not a planning one, which I think we all know. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, so the recommendation is that planning permission be granted with the recommendation as it appears on page 81. Can I see all those in favour? All those against? No abstentions. Okay, so I can confirm the recommendation is carried. So, going on to item 5.4, which is the land to the rear of 137 to 141 Queens Road, Beeston. The application seeks permission to construct 2 one-bedroom flats and an associated development. Ryan?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, 2-storey building for 2 one-bedroom flats. Each flat would have a bedroom, a kitchen dining area, a shower room. They're 52 and 54 square metres. It's 8.5 metres building to the ridge, 5.8 metres to the eaves. It's a residential area. Principal's okay. The building proposed is lower than those around it, and its front facade, as you can see from the pictures, is designed to either replicate or blend in the surrounding properties. And considering the mix of properties in the area, this is considered acceptable. The amenity impact is covered on pages 113 and 114, and we're not disputing the fact there would be some impact. We do not believe it's refusable on those grounds is okay in location, and some of the windows, particularly the rear, are no worse than what's there existing on other terrace properties along the street. The upper windows, the first 4 windows on the side, serve a landing, and the other one is obscurely glazed. The rear windows will be some impact, but again, as I said, similar to other terrace properties. For regards to the amenity standards, space standards are okay, and there's a small outdoor amenity space. Parking. Highways requested parking space per flats. Due to the site confines, this was not included. Highways are aware of some of the issues parking locally, but due to not leading to a highway safety issue, they do not recommend refusal. So raise no objections to it. And the other thing that's not in the report, but I checked this out this afternoon myself and I've looked into it, there's no B&G required because it's exempt, because there's actually nothing of any value on the site to start with, so it's exempt from actually needing to provide any B&G. That's it. Recommend approval. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. We did have one public speaker for this. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Elijah. So you've got 3 minutes.
There we go.
Speak. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in no particular sense of importance. I do take issue with the small outdoor amenity space, given that there are at least 8 bins on the property, and would like to make sure that there's enough space to accommodate all of those. I'm aware that there is the investigation into the impact of privacy with the windows, but I don't know that the reality would reflect having it. My personal bedroom window is like flush against facing the outside, so I'll be able to look over onto the building, which I think myself, other people with that room and the proposed future residents would possibly be quite uncomfortable with. The parking, I'm aware, isn't much of an issue, but we have had prior residents in 137A who do drive, and I think it would be an issue for them in the future, given that the on-street parking for Humber Road South is quite frequently full with those residents. And as well, the provision for cycle storage within the site would encourage alternative sustainable means of transport. I don't think is necessarily true. I don't believe that having a cycle shed available will push people towards purchasing a bicycle and learning to cycle it. But the biggest impact that I'm concerned with is that of noise and air quality during the construction site, given that my bedroom window can't be open without having particulates and other things coming through. So if all of that could be considered, I would appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. So in order to open the debate, I will move it from the chair. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Pauline. Anybody want to? Councillor Bunn.
Yeah, so I'd like to speak to this item as the ward councillor for Beeston Central and the person who called this into the committee. I'd like to also thank the resident for raising the concerns, which I think are legitimate. Like, what we have here is, in some ways, we've all been here before. A lot of the things I'm going to talk about will be things that you're familiar with, particularly in Beeston, but also that we see elsewhere. But there are also some things about this development that take it a step beyond what we normally deal with, and I want to draw attention to here tonight. So what we have is an infill development where what's currently sort of a parking area, and they want to build a building there with 2 flats, a lower storey and a storey above. that area is currently used for parking. It's in Beeston, which, as anyone that ever tries to go to any site visits in Beeston, like, it was built at a time when we didn't have loads of cars. The houses go almost directly onto the street, and therefore the parking provision is provided on the street. That leads to congestion. It leads to a lack of space, and we have, to an extent, we have to like deal with that, because, like I say, those houses were built before parking, you know, was a common thing. The problem is that we are now continuing to approve more housing, which is at a time when parking should be provided, and is known that, you know, a lot of houses do have cars and require them, because although we have public transport and we are lucky in Beeston that it is much better than other areas of the borough, it still only takes you to certain places. You know, if you live in Beeston but you work in, you know, even the north of our own borough, you have to go into the city and back out again, and it's, you know, it takes up to 2 hours. So while there are residents, and we encourage them to use public transport, and I'm really supportive of public transport schemes, that unfortunately is dependent upon where you work and where you need to get to. And unfortunately, at the moment, our public transport system is just not good enough to get there. And also, I would add, although we have called on the county council and the mayor to further subsidise public transport provision to make it cheaper, it's also expensive, and is not always a viable option for people. That's why when we get things coming forward which don't have any parking provided, we should be like calling attention to that. And I think it's indicative on this one that you've got highways actually they're not going so far as to say it shouldn't go ahead, but they do comment. They did ask for parking to be provided as part of the scheme, and they did ask for that. They said they won't object because there isn't a safety issue, but that doesn't mean there isn't a concern. The other issue, as has been mentioned already, is just how close, and this is where this is, you know, different to sort of other things that could be put in. There will be a gap of 1 metre between the back of this house and the houses that are there on Humber Road, which both have windows and provided to them. And then to the houses on Queen's Road, which normally what you end up with in developments is you have a house, you have a garden, you have another garden, and you have the house behind. You know, that provides a separation between the properties. That's what we've had, you know, obviously what didn't used to be the case when you had slums in Nottingham City and you had like back to back and like you could literally look into windows, but normally now that's the distance you have. Instead here, you have no garden between the two. There's a small amenity area in between, which is where they're saying that bin storage and cycle storage will be provided. But it's a short distance between the properties. You know, we've heard concerns previously in this meeting about concern over overlooking in distance, which are much larger distances where you have a full garden between. There's a very small gap between the two. And the other thing that I want to draw people's attention to is on page 110, 3.2, which is that there was an application to construct a 3-bedroom detached dwelling on this site previously, which was refused for the following reasons: that the residents of the proposed dwelling will have poor amenity due to inadequate private amenity space incorporated into development, and the amenity of existing residents will be adversely affected because the new dwelling will be overbearing and will cause overlooking. In addition, no off-street parking is proposed for the residents of the new dwelling. Accordingly, the development is contrary to the aims of policies H7 and T11 of the Broxtowe Local Plan 2004. The application was appealed and dismissed. What we have here is a policy that, instead of proposing to build one dwelling on that area, is now suggesting to put in 2 flats, and we're being told that we should accept it, despite the fact that another thing which would arguably have less impact on the area around it was previously refused, and like I say, that when they appealed against that appeal was upheld. So the appeal was dismissed and the decision was upheld. So I would say that we should not be accepting this. I would like, the other comment I will make is that the developer has made a few other small changes after suggestions were made by myself and residents to the proposal. For example, the removal of a Juliet balcony, which would have made the overlooking problems even worse, and I do thank them for that. But as it stands, I think there's more to be needed to make this an acceptable development in this area and in this specific location.
Thank you. Anybody else got anything else? Any more comments? Councillor Owen.
It's not so much a comment. I'd like some clarification, please, Chairman, because both Councillor Bunn and the public speaker mentioned this whole issue of overlooking and the proximity of the new build to the existing build. Can we have some clarity, or can I be given some clarity before I make a comment, as to exactly what is entailed here, because it sounded pretty horrific.
Okay, do you want to respond to that now, Ryan?
Could you put the plan up on page 121 to the proposed elevations and street view, please? If we've got it. No, the next one. There, that'll do. Go back. Or forward. Forward then. That one. Yeah, fine, thank you. I'm less concerned to the side. Others may disagree with me, but I'm less concerned with the impact to the side of the elevations lower down because they're either obscurely glazed or balconies and not habitable rooms. The main issue of concern is if you look at the elevation there, bottom left, as we look at it, with the 3 windows, is the 2 windows at the top there will be serving the kitchen, the bedroom, kitchen, dining, living room area. They will be facing over the back. That I think is the main concern is overlooking at the proximity here on the property. If you look at the plan, which will overlook the rear of where the numbers are on Queen's Road. That's the main concerns.
And how close, Chairman, if I may, how close? You say overlooking. What it will, can you give us some idea of the distance?
I can try. They've got about a couple of metres to the rear of that, and then they look over the rear boundary of the rear gardens. It's very close indeed in that regard. So
that's about, in real terms, 7 feet.
So
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's nothing new for you, Councillor.
6.5 feet.
In proper units, 7 feet. That's just a bit taller than me, a bit longer than me, and that's the. If you look on page 120, sorry to interrupt, is the rear elevation. So that bit there. That's where the southwest elevation would be. And the concern is that they'd look over the end of the gardens of the properties on Queen's Road.
The end of the garden.
I'm saying.
Well, now that has been clarified, at least I think it's been clarified, I think that's unacceptable, quite honestly. I'm surprised they've got a recommendation for approval. That's a huge loss of amenity for existing residents, and again the issue of parking. You've got no problem in Beeston with parking because you're a sustainable location. You've got trams, you've got public transport, you've got cycleways, you've got cyclists. Everybody uses those. You know that, and that's what you always vote on as a group. So come off it. You've got no problems with parking in Beeston because nobody uses or wants a car, and I think this just encapsulates the stupidity of that argument that we have every time about this concept of sustainability. It's going to cause problems with the parking. Even county highways have commented on it. Now that's unusual. That's very unusual for county highways to comment on it because I know they have to stick to rules as far in the same way as the planners do. I think this committee's got every grounds to turn this down, and I would encourage you to do so.
Okay, I think it would be useful for people from the site visit. So certainly Pauline was there. So if you want to come in, Pauline.
Yeah, I was at the site visit this morning, and I thought actually this was probably a really good use of a really scrappy bit of infill space that's not currently being used and will provide 2 reasonable sized flats. My concerns on the site visit were the overlooking from the, now, if you stand on Humber Road South, I think it was the property with the kitchen over there. But there is a wall there, and I was assured that the plans, the building finishes before that, so that overlooking from that kitchen, which is the lower piece there on that screen.
In front of the white car.
In front of the white car, won't have an issue because the building will stop before then. The other thing I did notice while we were there is that there were some cars parked on Humber Road South But there were a couple of spaces as well. It was not actually chocker this morning. I mean, obviously that's just one particular morning, but it wasn't. So
Yeah.
that'd been my comments really. I thought this was actually, you know, you can see it's a bit of a mess. I thought it was a good use of a little infill space for a couple of nice flats.
Yeah, I mean, my concern. Sorry,
Sorry, Chair, I thought
I was just going to add. Can I just add to Pauline's comment there? I will add to Pauline's comments in that I was more concerned about the amenity on the side, but that big wall then had two windows, of which one was a frosted bedroom, very small, and the other one was slightly larger, up higher, which was a landing. Sorry, Councillor Pringle.
I went to the site visit, and I disagree with Councillor Smith. I just see that, and having read that somebody wanted to put a 3-bedroom house in there and it was turned down in, albeit in 2006. Yeah, that's when it was turned down. And that, it's interesting when you look at the drawings, it's very difficult to see the measurements, but I think what you're saying is that the path between the two houses when it's built is going to be 1 metre wide. But interestingly, what you don't measure is you don't measure the bit at the back of the property. You measure that from the back of the property to the bit that, if you go back to that drawing, you can see what I'm talking about. You do it to the dog leg of the property behind. Can you see where I'm talking about?
Yes.
But what you've actually got behind the house is a very short distance as well. So why have you said it's got that great separation there when in actual fact in other parts the separation isn't there? And I just think it's in view of the fact that it was turned down and it was appealed and the appeal was allowed, I think that we shouldn't allow this to happen. It's as simple as that.
Did you want to come in, Greg?
Well, yeah, I think I agreed with Councillor Smith around it. On first look, it looks like, you know, there's a viable bit of development there. But I think, you know, when you then specifically drawing out that issue around amenity at the back, particularly those windows that I think even Mr. Dawson said quite under his breath was very, very close and a bit, was kind of illuminated the fact that, you know, particular closeness of amenity. I mean, there has been an application tonight which we have discussed where amenity was raised as an issue, but there was 10, 20 times the distance between what we're talking about here and what we were talking about there in terms of amenity in that sense. And, you know, and in that sense, you know, I think it probably just kind of don't quite meet that threshold, really.
Okay. Councillor Ball.
Just very quickly, I mean, I apologise I wasn't able to go to the site visit, but I did listen to the resident, and I am concerned when he said about the overlooking and looking in, and I really don't like that. And having listened to what everybody else has said, it obviously to me must be too close. So I don't think I'm going to support it. Thank you.
Okay. Come in. No. Okay, let's go to the vote then. The recommendation is that planning permission be granted as set out on page 107. Can I see all those in favour? 2? Yeah. 2. Yeah. All those against? Fair enough. I can confirm that the recommendation the substantive motion has fallen. So I will propose that planning permission. What happens now? I'm getting confused. Sorry? Yeah, it's refused, isn't it? Yeah. Reasons. Oh yeah. On the reasons. That's what I knew.
If everyone's happy, I would suggest that it's refused based on reasons of amenity with regards to overlooking to the rear of the scheme, but overlooking the gardens of the one on Queen's Road, and for parking issues. And the exact wording to confirm between myself and you.
Yeah. Okay.
We need to vote on that.
We have to vote on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we see all those in favour of that?
5, 6, 7, 8,
As well. Yeah, makes it
9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Is that everyone? 13?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Thank you.
Okay. So item 6.1 is the delegated decisions. These are on page 123 to 146. I'm not going to take them page by page. So does anybody want to make any comments on them? Yeah.
There has already been reference tonight to local government review overstretching its kind of remit, but I did note on page 133, why was the demolition of Ratcliffe-on-Soar Power Station in the Beeston West Ward delegated powers?
Exercise those.
I mean, that is some stretch, both in terms of scale and indeed geography. Yeah. We're against that as well.
Perhaps you can explain that one, Ryan.
It's a North, which is a neighbouring authority application. So with such things, that's considering the size of it, they consult the neighbouring authorities. So the application is basically, we were consulted on it, as in it's the scheme's based in, obviously, Rushcliffe, and they consult neighbouring authorities on it, and then we reply accordingly. So.
But why did we pick East and West, I guess, is the only follow-on question.
Probably to get your reaction, I would have thought.
Yeah. That's 2 traps I've fallen into.
Exactly, it's 2 traps. So, but I don't. I think next time perhaps should be put in other or something. No ward, but yeah, certainly. I don't know why it was your ward, but anyway.
Councillor Watts.
Yeah, thank you. I had noticed that one as well. But actually, if we turn over the page onto page 134, fourth one down, outline planning application for residential development of up to 880 homes, decision blank. I'm hoping decision is blank because this has been included in error, because I've certainly asked for this to come to the committee, and I very much hope that no decision has been taken away from this committee, because it would be utterly wrong if it was.
Yeah, I think it
Can I just back that up as well? In Beeston North, one of them is shown as a delegated decision, and we've discussed it tonight, and that's Muriel Road, and also 79 Prevel Road, which I've called in to committee. So they really shouldn't be on the list of delegated decision.
And just to add, I was going to say the same for one of East Central.
You didn't think we read these things, did you?
No. First off, can I confirm that the 880 homes has not been decided?
I was going to say, I thought that was coming.
It might be because it's an EIA scheme, but that's an EIA, but no, the descriptions, I have no idea. Because it's under the decisions list as well, isn't it? It's not under the applications received. I don't think. It shouldn't be there.
I think if you just come back, look at it, and let us all know tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 or 3 in there that shouldn't be there. I should check that. I'm sorry. There shouldn't be there. Certainly, we've not determined that. I mean, I'd love to see me try and determine 880 homes without the involvement from you lot, but there we go. But so, but it. Yeah, but there's no decision there. But sorry, don't know why that's there.
Okay, so Ryan can clarify that tomorrow.
And others.
And others. Okay, so that's a noting point. So those are noted. Item 7 is appeal decisions. Page 147 to 150, where my page numbers are a bit out. Can I ask the committee to note those, please? Yeah. Sorry, Councillor Owen.
Again, I think it's pretty poor on page 149 that appeal has been allowed. If the inspector noted that the room sizes weren't big enough, and yet allows the appeal. Can you confirm one way or the other, Mr. Dawson, these 9 student accommodation, self-contained studio flats, will these count against the government's housing target of 1.5 million extra units of accommodation?
If they're clusters, yes. If they're independents, yeah. If they're clusters, no. What I mean by that is if they have a self-contained bathroom, kitchen, and living space, then they're contained as housing units. if they're clusters, when we're clusters, you have rooms served off like a main dorm or a main, then they're not. I don't know what they are in this particular case. But if they're self-contained flats, it would count as 9 houses, yes.
Yeah, well, I think we can see the reasons why the appeal's been allowed, can't we? Even though it doesn't meet standards.
It's surprising, to be fair, because usually, I know we don't have a national space standards policy currently, it's coming in the new plan. Usually the inspector would tend to go with the space standards as they have in the past. Well, they haven't here, but they have in the past, haven't they? So.
Councillor Bunn?
Thank you. I just wanted to come in on the same item. It's something that I know we've raised previously. There's been some work on this, and it's come to like policy quite a few months ago now. And I know there's like plans to take this forward in the local, in the next local plan. But I had a conversation with Millen about this yesterday, just to make sure that we are looking at this, because like I say, we've got a situation at the moment where the committee. The planning committee, in terms of like representing our residents and representing the standard of homes that we want to see in our borough, are being let down by policy not basically keeping up up to speed with that. There is work being done to address this, which I want to make people aware of that maybe aren't aware of that, but just to reiterate that we need to be accelerating that to make sure that it is enforced, so that we can be making decisions based on what we want to see in our borough, the standards that we want to see for our residents, and not being let down by our policy, because we know we're going to be let down by governmental decisions every time they look at it.
Councillor Carr?
On the same issue, again, stick the word student in front of the word accommodation means that you not charge council tax, of course, and we've got loads and loads of these going up, in particularly in Beeston, which this council will get all the problems from, but none of the income from. And of course, and the other thing, of course, is we know, and to some of councillors in this room, quite personally, that universities are having a reduction in the number of students who are coming into them. So, and obviously, local government, the national government haven't cottoned on to this, that we don't need anymore all of these masses of student flats. What we need is a deal more of social housing. And I wondered if somebody could get that message to them, because they've obviously not picked it up.
Thank you. Okay, so that's noted. So just a reminder that the next meeting of the Planning Committee is scheduled to take place on Wednesday the 8th of October. So I'll close the meeting at 7:40.
Chairman, in previous, we've had it in the past, fairly regular reports on enforcement, planning enforcement, and any issues surrounding planning enforcement. And I don't know whether other members think as I do, that there is perhaps an issue over enforcement not being carried out as effectively as some of us would certainly like. So I would ask for that report. And also, although I'm no longer the county councillor for Kimberley, I'm still getting the odd email about the Kimberley Brewery site, and we were getting regular briefings on the Kimberley Brewery site, and in view of the issues particularly regarding the brewery tower, and I've also had issues raised with me over dumping of large amounts of rubbish, and it seems to be falling between environmental health and planning. I think it would be useful at the next committee meeting, if you're agreeable, Chairman, that we have an update on the Kimberley Brewery site.
In terms of where we are at planning, with regards to planning on it.
Well, yeah, I think
status overall, isn't it?
So it's out in the public domain.
You all right with that, Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with the enforcement, and if you're happy with the
it's fine. Yeah, fine.
the Kimberley Tower, then obviously I'm all right with that.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll declare the meeting closed at 7:40. 7:40. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone.